The story of the Uchiha Clan. It's a story about love and a story about passion. It's a story about sacrifice. It is a story about hate and hardship. The Uchiha are the fulcrum that stand between two absolutes, two dualities. They are the wuji at the center of yin and yang, and their story is one of never-ending strife, a story without a happy ending. Today, I want to tell a new story, a story about a man and his little brother, about sacrifice and loss of innocence. I want to tell a story about a young man, his love for his village, for his family and friends, and ultimately how circumstances beyond his understanding drew him into something he could never have imagined. Today, I plan to tell the story about Shisui, and about the love of a little brother that never was. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. We don't know who Shisui's parents were. We know that he must have had a father and a mother, but we don't know who. As far as I know, they were never mentioned, nor do they ever make an appearance. For that reason, I tend to go with the idea that Shisui was orphaned as a young boy, living on his own, likely being monitored and kept up by Fugaku, the clan head. After all, the Uchiha have always valued family. They waged an endless war with the Senju over it. They prepared to throw a coup over it. If you think family doesn't matter to them, then you're wrong. Shisui may have lost his father and mother, but he still has family, and that is the Uchiha clan. But what if he had a family of a more literal sense? What if Shisui wasn't an only child? Perhaps his parents were dead, and perhaps he was left to take care of himself. But what if he wasn't alone? Enter our new character, Mokugeki Uchiha. Not much older than Sasuke, only by maybe a couple months. Honestly, he somewhat looks like Sasuke in some degrees, or perhaps what Itachi did at that age. It's not surprising. They came from the same gene pool, and even if distant, they share common ancestors, and the bloodline of Shisui and Itachi may be closer than most anyway. This boy was like his older brother quite a bit, and was filled with a light that dispelled darkness. Whether it was naivete or simply that he believed in the good that people could choose is unknown, but the boy was blissfully ignorant all the same to the cruelties of the shinobi world, and Shisui wished to keep it that way. As a young man, Shisui cared for his little brother from the day his parents died onward, even to this day. Mokugeki always liked to sleep in late, and because he was a growing boy and held no real responsibilities, Shisui tended to let him, though he informed him to enjoy it while he could, because the day he entered the academy, he would treat him like a real shinobi, which meant getting up at the crack of dawn and pushing himself daily to become what he needed to be for the village. Mokugeki, or Moku as he was called for short, was a dreamer and wanted to become a shinobi one day when he grew up, hoping that he could bring peace to the world. Shisui informed Moku, though, that if he were to do this, he might have to do things he wasn't proud of, including killing people. But Moku shot back that a good shinobi would never have to kill anyone, and would simply change their mind with the right actions and words. Shisui thought that this was a dangerous ideal to carry, as refusing an order from the village or refusing to properly defend yourself and friends from the enemy only bred death. But Shisui remembered in the past how he was just like Moku. He sought to bring the world to peace no matter the circumstances, and he couldn't help but allow the boy to keep believing. Maybe it was dangerous, but if it was impossible for Mokugeki to accomplish this nindo he had already set before himself, the world would be sure to teach him. For now, Shisui couldn't interrupt the boy's innocence. Not yet. He knew it likely wouldn't be allowed to last much longer. "Moku," Shisui called up, "are you ever gonna get out of bed? It's already noon." With a snort and a jerk, the boy awakened. Crawling out from under the covers, he made it to the bathroom where he washed his face and brushed his teeth, as was the tradition Shisui had set for him to do. His brother was harsh with discipline, but very kind and loving, and despite being of the age where it was expected to begin testing limits of authority, Moku was quite the meek child. He never questioned his brother. Whether this was wisdom or just his own desire to live peaceably with all people, even Moku didn't know. Sauntering down the stairs, his hair still everywhere, he smiled. "Good morning, he said. "Morning ended a couple hours ago. This is midday now." Moku let out a yawn. "What's for breakfast?" "Well, for breakfast, I had an omelet. And now, for lunch, I'm planning on having a grilled cheese." "You're gonna get one too. so take a seat at the table. Mokugeki took a seat by the small table. Bringing over a plate with a grilled cheese on it and a cup of apple juice, he set it before Mokugeki. Shisui would bring his over and the two would offer thanks for the meal. Eating in silence, Mokugeki couldn't stop bouncing from side to side, as if he were dancing, or just too excited to sit still. "What's up with you?" he asked with a crooked smile and a questioning glance. "I guess I'm excited." "Why?" Shisui asked. Shisui knew why, he just wanted Moku to talk to him about it. "I get to join the academy this Monday." Shisui smiled. Itachi's little brother Sasuke will be there too. Mokugeki's eyes widened with excitement. "Sasu will be there too?" he asked. Sasuke and Moku had grown quite close to each other during these years. Had Shisui been alone, things might have been different, but because he had a little brother, Mrs. Makoto simply couldn't let Fugaku take a hands-off approach to this, so she was always nearby, ready to offer aid. Whenever Shisui had to go away on a mission, Makoto would take Moku in and let him have a sleepover with Sasuke. A bond grew there, not too far removed from the one that had slowly formed between Shisui and Itachi, and at this point these four young men were as close to brothers as could be. Itachi, Sasuke, Fugaku, Makoto, they would do anything for Shisui and Moku, and Shisui and Moku would do anything for them as well. It was truly a wonderful thing. Even though these two had lost their family, they had been blessed with a new one, and that changed everything for the better. As the two finished their breakfast, he spoke. "I gotta do a little something with the Konoha police force today. Someone called in sick and I gotta take their place. I'm gonna leave you at Sasuke's house for a little while. Are you okay with that?" Moku nodded. "Uh-huh. I'm excited to tell Sasu that we're gonna be going to school together." Shisui smiled. "Well then, go wash up and grab some of the things you think you'll need and I'll drop you off." And so Moku left to grab plenty of things to help entertain him. Not too many though, as Sasuke tended to kindly share his toys with Mokugeki. And so, as he took him over, Mrs. Makoto opened the door to welcome them inside. "Sorry Makoto, I can't come in today. I'm just here to drop off Moku. I really appreciate this, by the way," he said. "It's our pleasure," she replied. "You boys are a treasure to us. We love having you." Shisui then knelt down to Mokugeki. "Listen, Moku, you know the drill. Follow all the things Mrs. Makoto asks you to do as if I were the one asking, okay?" Moku nodded. "Okay, I promise. Be respectful, try to stay out of the way, and be helpful in any way you can." "I will," Moku said with a big smile. Shisui ruffled the boy's hair and pointed to his own cheek. Moku leaned forward and gave him a kiss on the cheek, something Shisui returned. "Be good." Moku waved. "Bye, Shi." And a moment later, Shisui was gone. "Are you ready to come inside?" Makoto asked. Moku followed her inside and stood there, his backpack tight on his shoulders, looking around. It was his custom not to move from this spot until he was given permission to do so. This was a part of the manners he'd been taught by Shisui. When Makoto gave him the go-ahead, he began to run off. "Wait, Mokugeki." Moku turned back. "Yeah? Don't forget to take off your shoes." His manners were still incomplete. Eventually making it to Sasuke's room, he stepped in. "Oh, hi Moku. I didn't know you were coming today." "Neither did I, but Shisui said that he was gonna have to pull a shift at the police station, so I get to stay over for the rest of the day." "Cool. Wanna play something?" "Sure." And so Moku and Sasuke played for quite a while. All this time, they talked about entering the academy and how fun it was going to be to become real shinobi. Moku stayed over long enough to enjoy a dinner with the family, and at about twilight, Shisui was off work and came back to pick him up. Thanking Makoto and Fugaku for their hospitality, he took Moku home, let him play in the tub for a while, and then settled him into bed for the night. "Good night," Shisui said as he closed the door. "Don't be afraid to let me know if you need anything, okay?" "Okay. Good night, Shi. I love you." Shisui closed the door, and as he did, he smiled with a touch of melancholy. Turning back, he looked at a picture frame. Within, hidden behind glass like some ancient piece of art, a photograph exists. It showed a very young Shisui, about 9 years old, standing beside a man and a woman. And in the woman's arms was a very clueless and jovial little baby. This had been taken just about a month before the accident that took their lives. This was the only connection that Moku had with them, and so he kept the picture nearby, so that every morning as he left his room, he could say good morning to them, and every night as he walked past, he could say good night. Shisui tried everything he could to keep the memory of them alive, and he tried desperately to raise Moku in the best way he could. But that being said, Shisui was only 14 himself, so self-doubt always crept in. Shisui was always good at seeing the faults in others, but rarely did he see the fault in himself. That was what led to the awakening of his Mangekyou Sharingan, and the fear that he was somehow not fit to raise Moku. Having let a comrade he was jealous of die, he felt like a murderer. But even if he was a murderer, this was what Moku had. And so, even if he were unworthy, he would do the best he could. Mom, Dad, am I doing good? The long-awaited day had finally arrived. The day where he got to attend his first day at the academy had come. Moku was so excited that he almost forgot to eat breakfast. Shisui helped him fill his backpack and would take him to the academy. Standing out front, he watched as Moku ran off without even saying goodbye into the building. Shisui smiled, though a part of him maybe had hoped Moku might cry and not want to leave his side. But this wasn't really his fault, as it seemed that so many others were feeling the same way, including Fugaku and Makoto, who just laughed it off. Sasuke was just as excited as Moku was, and now the two of them were going to get to study together. Itachi was there as well to see Sasuke off. Today, Shisui and Itachi were going to have to do work together. Both were already in their gear and would head out to clock in immediately. But as they walked, Shisui spoke. I missed the last meeting. What happened? He asked. It's not good. Father and the others are really beginning to take this seriously. Are there any plans yet? Shisui asked. Itachi shook his head. None so far. I'm trying to buy us time, but I'm starting to come across suspicious. I really need you to be there for the next meeting. You know I can't leave Moku alone, Shisui said. I understand that, but my mom said she would take care of him. I know, but... Itachi stopped. Shisui, I know this is uncomfortable, but the issue won't go away just because we don't look at it. We can't use our little brothers as an excuse. Shisui rubbed his face as the stress was finally showing. You're right. I know. I just have never been this scared before. When it's just me, I don't mind it. I'd lay my life down at a moment's notice for the clan and for the village. You know that. But it's not just me anymore. Mokugeki needs me, and I don't want anything to happen to him because of me. Itachi put a hand on Shisui's shoulder. You're a good man, Shisui, and good men are always called to do the hard things. Itachi moved on towards the Anbu HQ. I need you at the next meeting, you hear? Moku and Sasuke sat together in school, listened to the teacher talk as best they could, and read together. They studied very well, but it was obvious that their bond led to them being more silly than some of the other kids, which only straightened out when the teacher threatened to separate them. Sasuke and Mokugeki would walk home from school together, where Moku would stay with Makoto until Shisui came home from the meeting. And this was the new normal for them. For quite some time, this is what happened. During their time at the academy, Moku and Sasuke would take days off to do extra training. Since Shisui and Itachi were always busy, they didn't really have many people who could train them. Despite this, Sasuke was beginning to feel like he wasn't good enough. He was always trailing behind Itachi, and despite how loving the relationship was with Sasuke and his family, he was always being held to a higher standard, so that even when he could accomplish feats other kids couldn't, like a high-level fireball jutsu, it still didn't seem good enough to impress Fugaku, and because of that, Sasuke was sad. He didn't feel acceptable, and Itachi wasn't around to train him. So on days off from the academy, Moku would visit Sasuke and the two would head out for the deep woods away from the compound to train, away from the village proper. Itachi often trained by himself to stay sharp, and Sasuke would watch from afar and attempt to emulate it. He would try to teach this to Moku, and the two would use their rivalry as a way to quickly increase their abilities. They were by no means anywhere close to Shisui and Itachi's level, but they were indeed making progress. Their shuriken jutsu was getting better the more and more they practiced, and remembering the techniques they'd been taught at the academy, they trained taijutsu together, sparring regularly. Mokugeki had an advantage over Sasuke during sparring sessions due to his natural speed. It seemed Moku had inherited the same genes that gave Shisui his natural speed. Moku could even somewhat mimic the body flicker technique. It wasn't as impressive as Shisui's, but he could still do it. As Sasuke was put on his rear end, he turned to the side and rubbed his hip. Are you okay? Moku asked, trying to help Sasuke up. Yeah, I just think my butt's tired of me falling on it. Then maybe we should do some other type of training, Moku said. What kind of training did you have in mind? Sasuke asked. I think we should work on our tracking skills, as well as our abilities to avoid detection, Moku said. Sasuke scoffed and smiled. Sounds like you just want to have an excuse to play hide and seek. Moku smiled. Maybe, but it still counts as training because shinobi have to be sneaky. Sasuke sighed. Fine, that's what we'll do next, but you have to be the seeker first. Moku understood. He found a tree and hid his face and began to count to 100. Sasuke would rush off to hide, jumping through the trees until he found a good hiding spot, a little cave near the river. Entering the cave, he found a rock to hide behind. Moku will never find me here. Moku continued counting. 82, 83, 84. He kept going until he reached 100. 99, 100, here I come, he shouted. He then began to search for Sasuke. He knew Sasuke would try to throw him off the scent, so he needed to put himself in his friend's mind. Grass is too easy. If I were Sasuke, I would move through a place that wouldn't leave tracks. Looking up, he saw a tree limb that was small yet snapped upon a larger tree. Moku would climb up on the tree, and from here he could see another limb heading in another direction. He would begin to follow the trail. For quite some time he searched, but the trail went cold. It seemed that Sasuke was as meticulous as Itachi, and when it was clear that he would not find Sasuke, Moku would call out the truce. "Ollie, ollie, oxen free," he shouted. Normally there'd be a shout back, but Moku assumed Sasuke might have been out of earshot. "Ollie, ollie, oxen free," Moku shouted again. Still no response. Where could he be? Suddenly, he heard a scream coming from the southeast. Running in that direction, he called out, "I'm coming, Sasuke!" Adrenaline beginning to pump, Moku started to fear. If Sasuke was screaming, then that meant he was in danger. But what could be so dangerous that Sasuke couldn't handle it? Sasuke was really strong, only losing to Moku because of speed. Was it because he was facing a cheetah or some other big cat of prey? As he kept moving toward the source of the scream, he began to hear the sound of flowing water. And in it, he saw Sasuke crawling up toward a rock for stability. Heading in his direction was a massive bear. Moku began to panic. "I'm coming, Sasuke," he shouted. He jumped down and began to wade through the river. He needed to get Sasuke out of there, and he needed to do it now. He thankfully got to Sasuke before the bear did, but as it saw them trying to retreat, he began to increase his speed. Due to its strength and weight, it was far less affected by the undertow of the river, meaning it could move more quickly than Moku and Sasuke. Moku knew he couldn't outrun the bear, but he couldn't let Sasuke die either. So what could he do? Was this the end? Was he going to die here? The terror of the idea of leaving Shisui alone seemed to trigger something in him. In that moment, Moku awakened his Sharingan, and with it, he looked the bear in the eyes and cast it under Genjutsu. Putting the bear to sleep, he would quickly pull Sasuke to the other side of the river. Laying him down, he would see a long strip of 4 red claw marks running down Sasuke's chest, having shredded the shirt from shoulder to stomach. He was bleeding and was crying out from the pain. Moku tried to staunch the bleeding by pressing a cloth to the wounds, but all it did was aggravate it more, causing Sasuke's screams to grow even louder. Moku didn't know what to do. He couldn't leave Sasuke here. "Sasu, this is gonna hurt, but I gotta do it," he said. He lifted Sasuke up over his arm and grabbed him around the hip to get him on his feet again. The sudden movement of the muscles caused the wound to expand, creating a burning pain unlike anything Sasuke had ever experienced. Sasuke screamed from it, but this was all Moku could do. They were far away from civilization, and they needed to get him to a doctor quickly. By the time they got back to the village proper, Sasuke was no longer conscious, either from pain or blood loss. He kept walking, dragging Sasuke along. Getting to the house, he cried out, "Miss Makoto!" He screamed as loud as he could. "Mr. Fugaku! Somebody! Please help!" he shouted. The door opened and Sasuke's parents exited. Seeing this, they ran over. A tired Moku would lower Sasuke to the ground, unable to keep pushing. "What happened?" Fugaku demanded to know. "Me and Sasuke were training in the woods, and we were working on our tracking skills. And while we were doing that, Sasuke was attacked by a bear." "What were you doing that deep in the woods?" "Training," Moku said. "No, you were playing. That's what you were doing," Fugaku shouted. "Just piddling around, playing hide and seek. And now Sasuke's hurt." Moku took a step back. I didn't mean for this to happen. It's not my fault." Makoto was trying to cover the wound as best she could while trying to get Sasuke's attention. Sasuke, look at me. You've got to open your eyes. Sasuke!" "We have to get him to the hospital," Fugaku said. Shisui and Itachi were doing their tasks at the Anbu HQ, taking inventory of the weapons and items they had. They were just about finished when someone came into the room. "Itachi? Shisui?" They looked back. "Yeah? Call just came in. You two are needed for a family emergency. One of your brothers is in the hospital." Both Itachi and Shisui began freaking out. "Which one?" they both exclaimed. I don't remember." They both pushed past the man and raced for the door. Exiting, they ran straight for the hospital without slowing down. They entered the building and began looking for the room. Heading up, they saw Fugaku and Makoto standing outside. The two boys ran over. "Is everything okay? Who's been hurt?" Fugaku looked away. Makoto turned around. "Sasuke and Moku were playing in the woods and were attacked by a bear. Sasuke was hurt pretty bad, but Moku seems to be okay." "Where is he?" Shisui asked. Makoto then spoke. "I left him in the playroom downstairs." Shisui caught his breath. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Makoto, Mr. Fugaku. I just need to check on Moku." "It's okay, Shisui." Shisui ran downstairs and entered the room. There were no other kids in the room and it seemed dark. The TV was on, playing some educational puppet show for kids, but the audio was muted, leaving only the closed captions on the bottom of the screen to give context to the images. Moku wasn't watching it though. He was simply sitting on a bench against the wall. Shisui walked over to him. "Moku?" The boy was silent. Shisui knelt down by Moku and saw him trembling. He put his hand on his shoulder. "Moku, what happened?" Moku spoke, his voice shaking as much as his body. "We were in the woods training. I decided we should work on tracking, so we played hide and seek, but Sasuke was attacked by a bear." Shisui spoke. "You know it's dangerous to go out there alone. I told you to stay in the compound. We have training areas there. Why did you disobey me? I didn't think there were any bears around the village." "There shouldn't be. They should be kept outside the walls. But they can climb, Moku. We can't keep every wild animal out. This is why I tell you not to go in the woods." Moku gripped his shorts a little tighter. "We thought it was safe. I didn't know. This isn't my fault," Moku said as tears dripped from his lowered face. "This is why you don't disobey me, Moku. This is why you listen to me and Makoto and Fugaku. We know best. Sasuke's hurt right now. He could have died. You could have died. Do you know what that would have done to me?" Moku looked up, his Sharingan glowing behind tears. "Yes, I know. I made a mistake. I didn't think anyone would get hurt." Shisui saw the Sharingan. Understanding what Moku must be feeling right now, he pulled him into a hug. "Please tell me you're okay," he said. As Moku cried into his shoulder, he gripped the back of Shisui's shirt tightly. "I didn't want Sasuke to get hurt. I'll never go in the woods again, I promise. I'm sorry. I don't want him to die. If he dies, I'll never forgive myself." Shisui could only do what he could, and that was hold Moku close. "I should punish him," Shisui said. "I need to discipline him," he told himself. But the longer he heard the boy cry in his arms, the more that will went away. He couldn't punish him. He'd been punished enough. The day after, they would come back to the hospital. They had heard that Sasuke was awake and wanted to visit, but Moku didn't want to go. It took everything Shisui had to get him to go. "Your friend wants to see you, Moku. You can't abandon him like this." And so they went, but Moku kept his head low. Shame was eating away at him. As they got to the doctor, Fugaku and Makoto were leaving the room. Moku, still hiding his face, didn't even look up. When Shisui asked them if there were any words he would like to say to Makoto and Fugaku, all he could say was, "I'm sorry. I really didn't mean for this to happen." A moment passed when all of a sudden a pair of arms wrapped around Moku and lifted him from the ground. Makoto's motherly instincts were ever present in every action she took, and holding the boy up, she kissed his head. "Sasuke told me what you did for him, how you fought the bear for him. I can't express how proud of you I am," she said. Fugaku didn't say anything. To some degree, he still blamed Moku, and Shisui could see it in his eyes. But at the same time, he didn't hate Moku. He was just glad everyone was okay, and hoped that Shisui ensured that something like this would never happen again. "Why don't you go in and see Sasuke?" Makoto said. Letting Moku down, she opened the door and had him walk in, closing the door behind him. Moku stood there on the other side of the closed door. Sasuke was laying there. He wasn't moving much, but he was conscious. "Moku," he said, calling out to him. Moku began to walk closer toward the bed. "I'm sorry, Sasu," he said. "I should have kept us in the village. If I had, you wouldn't be hurt right now." Sasuke smiled. "Yeah, I guess, but now I got a cool scar. The doctors say that when it heals, it'll look so wicked, I can show everyone in class, and it'll make me look tough." Moku face-planted on the bed. His words were muffled as they passed through the quilted blanket Makoto had brought her son. "What?" Sasuke asked. Moku lifted his head. "It's my fault you got hurt. I'm sorry." Sasuke then spoke. "Nah, what happened happened. You can't make it unhappen. I could have died, but you saved me," he said. "You defeated the bear. You got your Sharingan too. That's so cool. Can we get attacked by the bear again so I can get mine?" he asked. Moku looked up at Sasuke with a face of intensity, questioning how he could even think of such a thing. Despite everything, Sasuke was in high spirits, and though the process was painful, he did finish healing. And just as promised, he did have a rather awesome set of scars that he kept showing everyone and their mother. He wanted to show everyone how tough he was, thinking that somehow this would make him a better shinobi than Itachi. Maybe Itachi could do a bigger fireball jutsu, but did Itachi ever fight a bear and win? The bear kept getting taller every time Sasuke told the story, as did the tail. It quickly became Sasuke's favorite talking point, and every time he needed to score points for coolness, the bear story was the one he went back to, even if he had already told the present company 4 times before. The threat of a coup continued to rise, and due to that, Shisui began to fear for Moku's future. The two went out on a picnic on their own. Since Moku loved the forest so much, he decided to take Moku out to play. At first, Moku was apprehensive about it, fearing that doing so might somehow cause another bear to attack, and maybe this time hurt Shisui. But Shisui told him not to be scared. There wasn't a bear alive that could catch him. And so, for a little while, they played, working up an appetite. They proceeded to eat their food and then lounged around for a while, letting the sun set. As the orange glow of the sun began to disappear behind the trees, slowly the stars began to come out. As they laid there staring at them, Shisui couldn't help but think about everything that was to come, what he was going to have to do. If his plan didn't work, there could be a war, or at the very least, a suppression of the Uchiha clan. He feared what such a thing could do. In some degrees, he considered taking Moku and leaving the village before any of this happened. "What do you think about taking a vacation?" Shisui said. "A vacation?" "Yeah," Shisui said. "I'll have to work, of course, but I think you're old enough to take care of yourself. I'll take you to a cool house by the beach, and you can stay there, play in the sand and in the water. It'll keep you occupied while I work." "Why not let me stay at Mrs. Makoto's house?" Moku asked. "Because it could be dangerous." "Dangerous?" Moku asked. "Why?" "Because something's going on in the Uchiha clan. They're very angry, and I think they want to fight the Hokage." "Why?" Moku asked. "They think they're being treated unfairly. They could fight, and people could get hurt. I'm trying to stop the fighting, but I'm afraid if I do so, it'll make me a target from both sides, and then they'll try to hurt you instead." Moku didn't seem to understand, but there was one thing he knew. "I'm not leaving," he said. "If you're gonna stay and protect the village, then I want to as well." "I don't think there's much you can do, Moku. I don't think you're ready for the kind of stuff that's happening. You're not even a genin yet." "You're my older brother, and I won't let you do it alone. If you take me to the beach and leave me, then I'll just come home by myself." "That's dangerous, Moku. I'm your older brother. If I tell you that you need to stay there, you will." Moku shook his head. "You may be my older brother, and you may be taking care of me, but I also want to take care of you. I'm not gonna let you do this alone." "Moku," Shisui said. Looking down, he saw his younger brother looking up at him with his Sharingan active, a sign of determination. Moku had made up his mind, and if he was anything like his big brother, nothing was going to get in the way. "Okay, you can stay, but if anything happens, we're both leaving the village." Moku nodded. The more that time passed though, the more dire the situation between the Uchiha and the village grew. It had become a sure thing. They began writing up plans to take over the village and remove the Hokage. Shisui knew that the only hope to stop this was to use his Koro Amatsukami on the Uchiha to stop them from making a mistake. But before he could, tragedy struck. Danzo Shimura, fearing what Shisui could do and craving the power for himself, stole Shisui's right eye and left him poisoned. Shisui, knowing his death was closing in and that Danzo would try to take his left eye as well upon death, felt like there was nothing he could do now. Knowing what Danzo would do to both the village and the Uchiha clan, he had to take desperate measures. He had only one chance, and this chance required him to do the hardest thing he could ever imagine to do, and that was putting Moku in danger. Itachi had received a message from Shisui, asking him to meet him by the Naka River and to bring Moku with him at this time. This was an odd request, but he couldn't deny it, so he told Moku that Shisui wanted to see him. Moku grabbed his shoes and put them on, following Itachi into the woods. Once there, they discovered Shisui sitting on a rock. Moku said with a smile, running to his brother to hug him. Latching on, he looked up at his brother with a smile, only for the blood running from Shisui's right socket to startle him. Moku pulled away and fell back. "Shisui!" Itachi ran over. "Shisui?" Looking at him, he saw that his eye was gone. "Shisui, what happened?" Shisui spoke. "There was a leak. Danzo figured out what my Mangekyo could do, and what we were planning to do with it. And he ripped it out of your head? Why?" Shisui shook his head. "I don't know. I think he wanted to use it for himself. Maybe he was scared of it. Or perhaps he simply thinks it's time for the Uchiha to end." "This is crazy," Itachi said. Moku came back to Shisui's side and hugged him, worry present on his face. "Don't worry, Shisui. I'll get your eye back, no matter what," he said. Shisui smiled, though his face was full of worry as he looked at him. Tears began to fill what was left of Shisui's eyes. "Are you okay?" Itachi asked. "You look pale as a ghost." He looked up at Itachi and shook his head. "I was poisoned." "Poisoned?" Itachi asked. "Are you going to be all right?" Shisui looked down at Moku, terror in his eyes as he spoke. Shisui began to stand. "I don't think that matters anymore. The only thing that matters is saving the Uchiha. But how are we going to do it without your Kodo Amatsukami? He asked. Shisui looked down at Moku and stroked his head. You know, when I was your age, I was just as naive, he said. I thought all I needed to do was tell people to stop fighting, and they would. And when I awakened my Mangekyou Sharingan, I realized that it had always been my ability to do so. My words and genjutsu carried a subtle weight. It made people reconsider things. Many people think that my Sharingan forced people to do whatever I wanted, but that's not true. All it did was force them to open their mind to new possibilities. Mine was the technique of the open heart, and I surmise that Moku's ability will be the same. All we have to do is get him to awaken it. I'll do it, Moku said. I'll do anything you ask. We're in this together. Tell me what I need to do to awaken my Mangekyou Sharingan, and I'll do it. Shisui stood and walked to the edge of the rocky outcropping that let down to the river below. Shisui? Itachi asked. Danzo is certainly going to come for my left eye. He might not trust me with my own power, but I don't trust him with it either, he said. Shisui then lifted his hand up and reached into his eye socket, plucking the Sharingan from its place. Shisui, what are you doing? He asked, terror-stricken across his face. Shisui turned around. Itachi, I trust you with this power, he said, holding out his hand. I accept the responsibility, he replied as a crow swooped from the air and took the eye. There's another responsibility I need you to accept. And what's that? Please, Shisui said as his face grew dimmer. Watch over Mokugeki for me. This is the only thing I ask, greater than taking care of my Sharingan. This is the most important thing to me. What are you planning to do, Shisui? Itachi asked. Shisui stepped forward, his chakra sense guiding him. Kneeling down, he wiped his face to remove the blood from his now empty socket, keeping his lids closed so Moku could only remember how he had looked at him instead of how he never again could. Moku, he said. Moku looked at him with shock across his face, unsure how to respond to anything he was seeing. Moku, do you know that I love you? Moku was silent. You know I would do anything to protect you. Moku nodded. Yes. Let me show you how far I'll go to protect my family. Suddenly, Shisui stood and ran toward the edge and jumped. Moku, startled, broke free from Itachi's grasp and ran toward the edge as well. Why had Shisui jumped? Why was he going to kill himself? Moku couldn't understand. To some degree, Moku didn't think he could lose him and was plenty prepared to jump with him, but Itachi's strides were larger than his and he tackled him before he could go. Moku reached out in an attempt to grab Shisui's foot. No, he screamed in a voice so loud it hardly sounded human. Itachi couldn't look. Moku watched as Shisui's body disappeared below into the chasm. As Shisui fell, he thought to himself, please, watch over him and let him awaken the power to protect everyone. A moment later, he hit the water, his skeleton shattering like glass. Moku saw it all. Moku's eyes in that moment formed into Mangekyou Sharingan. He screamed so loud that it sounded as though his voice might blow out. Turning to Itachi, who was still on top of him, he began to blame him. Why did you grab me? He shouted, elbowing Itachi as hard as possible in the skull. Why didn't you let me save him? You would have died too. I don't care. I can't be alone. I'll never be alone, he shouted. Pulling Moku up by his shoulders, Itachi gazed deep into Moku's eyes, his own eyes having become Mangekyou Sharingan. He was my brother too, he shouted into Moku's face, tears forming in Itachi's newly awakened eyes. I loved him. I loved him like a brother. Moku began to stop fighting. I can't, he said. I can't lose him. I don't even remember my own parents. I have nobody, he said as he broke down in tears. Itachi knelt down in front of Moku and hugged him. You're wrong, he said. You have me. As Itachi looked up at the waning moon, he prayed. Please, let Moku have awakened Kodo Amatsukami. As it turned out, Moku had. He had awakened a form of Kodo Amatsukami, and despite the fact that he shouldn't have been there, Itachi found a way to sneak Moku into the Naka shrine in time for the next meeting. There, he cast the Kodo Amatsukami and stopped the Uchiha from rising up. There was no uprising. The plot was let go. Itachi would report that the plan was successful, and that the Uchiha had successfully been stopped. He claimed that he had used Shisui's left eye after his suicide to cast the genjutsu, and then destroyed it so that nobody else would ever use its power again. And so that was the end of that. Due to this, the Uchiha clan survived. There would be no massacre, and peace returned. But Moku was never the same after that night. Every night, he could be found outside, looking up into the moon. Itachi would sit down beside Moku. Your brother would be proud of you, he said. Moku was quiet for a moment. Itachi continued. You'll grow up into a fine shinobi one day. Konoha is blessed. Damn Konoha, the small child said. And damn shinobi. I'll never do another thing for this godforsaken place again, he said. Itachi looked to Moku for a second to see his Mangekyo burning with hate, his eyes overrunning with tears. They took him from me, he whispered under his breath. That Danzo guy. He stole my brother's eye and poisoned him to death. I hate him, Moku said. I want him to die. He cried out as he fell into Itachi's arms. Itachi had nothing he could do in this moment besides what he promised. He would protect Moku with every ounce of strength he had. Itachi held out his finger, and in a moment a crow descended upon it. The crow now bearing the Mangekyo Sharingan of Shisui. I know you're upset, Moku, but you'll never be alone. Shisui will always be watching over you, he said, showing the boy the crow. Can I leave this in your care? Will you take care of Wotan for me, he asked. Moku held out his finger and the bird jumped onto it. This was now the only way that the two brothers could see each other. As Moku returned to his room, Wotan always stood nearby, and as he fell on his bed that had so graciously been offered to Moku by Fugaku after Shisui's passing, he raised his eyes and looked at a picture frame. It possessed an image of his father, mother, himself, and Shisui. Holding it close, he buried his face into his pillow and began to cry. And that's where I'm gonna call it quits for tonight. I know this must certainly be a sad ending, but what did you expect from a story revolving around Shisui Uchiha? That being said, while this is technically a finished story, I do have ideas for how to extend it into at least another part. That is, if you all really want that. Show this video some love with all those good things like liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing the video around. If this video is enjoyed by enough people, maybe I'll consider extending out the video into a series, but I guess that's up to you. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, we've got plenty others just like it. Here's a couple for you to choose from. And until next time, my friends, peace out.